Hello, internets. This is Michaelos, and this is Conjured Refreshments, episode 8. Mystic, go.
I'm so glad that you decided to introduce me during the opening thing. So yeah, thank you.
It's work in progress.
Going to do some stuff a little bit differently this week. We're going to talk about the Q&A that happened on Saturday. Yeah. Give our thoughts on it. And demons, WTF. Where they come from, all that fun stuff. And our new shiny thing. Bam. We have an opening now that I need to figure out how to make it work better in OBS, but it's new. So, yeah. We'll make it work somehow. So, Mike, what have you been up to the last 2 weeks? Yeah.
Pretty much buying Steam games.
You fucking addict.
And at the moment, trying to figure out what's going on with the YouTube stream right now. There we go. Okay. And pretty much that's all I've really been doing is buying the Steam games. And I listened to the live question and answer Saturday. And but other than that, nothing really special.
Well, then you're lame.
I got a ton of games that I could play over the coming months.
Well, what I've been doing is I've been working on my office more. Last time we did a podcast, we had the floor down and a couple walls up, just the bracing of the wall, not bracing, the framing. And we got the wood up on the walls. We got electricity running. I have a network wire running to it. And I cannot for life of me find a adapter you put in one of those little junction box thingies I could plug my Cat 5 into. Everything had to be wired, and I'm not playing with networking wire anymore. Like every wire in the house right now, except for what I have running into my office, I made. There's one, I think it was Staples one day, and they were getting rid of like 2,000 feet of it for like $10. It wasn't made or anything. It's just the wire itself. So I bought the crimping tool, bought ends, and ran wire for the entire house. That was fun.
I could mail you my extra wire that I made myself.
I still have a roll right beside me. I still have a roll of that wire left over. So what I ended up doing was I just ran the wire through the walls and cut a hole in the junction box and ran the cat wire up through there and tied it in a little knot so it doesn't fall through the wall. And I painted the walls, and we put the ceiling up, we put the lighting in, and today we framed and installed the desk. It's a nice, lovely 8-foot by 12-foot desk. A lot of real estate. Not like that. So we still have to do edging of stuff. I don't know. Dad says, do this. I go, yes, sir. It's a father-son bonding thing, you know? So.
Oh, of course.
I hope to be in that office soon. I am, however, not looking forward to lugging all the computer equipment and tech stuff I have to that lovely office. But I get my 3 monitor display back. The current setup I have, because I got 23-inch monitors, I ran out of room for my 3 display setup, so I've been slumming with 2 displays. I broke my Razer mouse because I dropped it and one of the buttons popped out and I couldn't get to go back in, so I ordered a new Naga and one of those extra big gaming pads.
Killed the mouse.
I killed the mouse, yeah. Well, you know what? Just like the headphones I had before, the ones I have now, I've had this mouse for, God, years. Like, my current system I have now, I built in 2013, and I had this before that.
Yeah, that's the reason I buy Logitech.
It served me a long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's why I still buy Logitech, is because every time I buy Logitech, it's the same story. It lasts me a long time, so why change?
Right. So I ordered the mouse and an extra large gaming pad because I'm there. I might as well. And the mouse pad was on back order. I ordered stuff on 6/8. This past Monday, it said everything was back in stock. My order didn't change. So I emailed them. It could take up to 3 business days to reply to you. Sure, whatever. Fast forward to today, no communication back, so I called the number on the website, and I got a non-English speaking person. And the worst customer service I've ever had from a business in my entire life. It wasn't, hello, how can I help you? It was, hello? That's it.
I don't know. My experience with the people who made Zine code may be able to compete with that.
I said, well, it's the first time I'm calling customer support for Razer. What do you want? Do you want my name, my order number, what? Yes, your order number. I gave it to him. What problem? Your English, maybe? I went through my entire spiel. Oh, we just got them on 6/17. No, sorry. We're getting them on 6/17. I was like, well, in the part of the world I'm from, it's 6/18. Oh. Well, we'll ship it to you tomorrow or next week. Which one is it, buddy? Tomorrow? Next week? Kind of want to know now. And I just got an email about an hour ago from the email I sent on Monday. They sent my order to the warehouse to see what's up with it. Yeah. My faith in Razer is dwindling. And the sad thing is, I like the products. I don't care for the gaming pads. But the keyboard, I'm on my second Black Widow. I love the keyboard. I love the mice.
The only thing I have that's Razer is my my gaming pad, the Tartarus gaming pad, or whatever.
Okay. I moved to a Logitech G13. But other than that, just been working in the office, sleeping, playing some games with you that we're going to be doing for our channels, just so we don't look like complete idiots when we play them. Even though we will look like idiots, because
that's the joy of watching us.
I don't recall half the puzzles we did. That's how tired I was.
Well, that's the joy in watching us, is comedy through our idiocracy.
Yes.
If that's a word.
It can be.
If not, it is now.
All right, so do you want to do this this lovely Q&A we tear it apart?
No. Let's talk about your personal life.
Okay,
When
well,
you were a
I'll start
child.
back.
No, let's move on. Your personal life is too boring. Let's go.
Well, I'll start back in first grade when the teachers beat me. I had learning difficulties, and since I wasn't understanding the material, instead of trying to teach me, they decided to take me into the hallway and hit me with a wooden paddle.
They didn't use the 2-foot ruler.
No.
In my day, they take us to the principal's office and whoop us good. You kids don't know what punishment is. Get off my lawn.
All right, so not that topic. That one. Here we go. So, for people who missed it, there was a Q&A on Saturday with Watcher, lead game designer, and surprise, surprise, a lot of this talk was about flying. Before we get into Q&A, from the last time we did our podcast, they did announce that you can fly in Draenor after you do an achievement.
About damn time.
And granted, my monk I have some stuff to do on the achievement still, minus the rep grinding, but I don't know how I feel about this achievement thing, but I digress. So the first thing is, the question was curious about implementation of flying meta. Later patch implementation is a tech thing. And Watcher came back and said they need to do some bug fixes, do some modifications that allow you to fly in Draenor. Why wasn't this already built with the idea of flying? I understand that half a team was against flying, half a team was for flying. However, make it all happen so if you decide to go for it, just do it instead of having this happen. What do you think?
Just have a button in the office that's the enable flying button. It's like a little red button inside a briefcase. Have to have the thumbprints of 2 employees to activate. I think that's how it should have been done.
And a key turn, huh?
Yep. They both have to turn the key at the same time after the thumbprint. Meanwhile, President Obama has to be watching over them at the time.
Oh, God. All right, you do the next question if you have anything else to say on this topic.
And it's, for the most part, all the stuff he said in a way makes sense, other than the whole spiel about they have to fix bugs and stuff with flying. But I mean, it's never stopped them before. Releasing with bugs and all. Just saying.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But in a way, I get that they have to iron out some bugs and stuff, probably, because they were going with the stance of no flying until they made this miraculous change of heart right before the Q&A. Illuminati.
Well, in all honesty, I really do. Like, and I gave the praise before on the last podcast to the community. The majority of the comments and posts and tweets about wanting flying in the game were constructive.
Yeah,
they weren't. Again, there were some, but there wasn't the "F you Blizzard" blah blah blah. No, they were. Here's why we want flying in the game, and
yeah.
that had to be 90% of it.
Yeah. Plus the immediate outrage after announcing no flying probably was part of it too.
That, and I kind of want to know how many people cancel their subs and put that in the cancel statement.
Yeah. Well, I hear they have you talk to an actual GM when you cancel. So maybe.
Oh, they changed that because when I canceled in Kata, I just had to type in a little box.
Oh.
Like,
I hear it's a change they made recently with Warlords or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Why are you unsubbing? And my answer was Kata's not fun.
From what I've heard, people who've unsubbed during Warlords have actually talked to a GM and they've had like 4-hour talks and stuff, and they've been posting it on forums.
Oh dear God.
But for the most part, I can understand the desire to want to iron out some bugs, and I kind of feel like the follow-up patch that enables flying won't really be that far from 6.2. Obviously, I could be wrong because, well, it's Blizzard, and they love to say soon with a TM up there. So
right.
I don't think a lot of people are under this impression that they're going to hold 6.2.x until the expansion's almost over and then sneak flying in there and be like, haha, we're the evil Blizzard Corporation. We snuck this in there at the last moment. And
well, they've already come out and said that they have more plans for Warlords past this patch.
Yeah.
And I really think a lot of that has to do with the Warcraft movie being moved to summer 2016.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to release the expansion in a movie very close to each other.
Yeah. And for the most part, I agree with this compromise. I don't understand the whole reputation part of it.
Yeah.
Which he does say in the question and answer that the reputation takes 2.5 to 3 weeks, just about, if you really go at it with the weeklies and dailies. Thank God it's weeklies and dailies and not Grindfest 2.0. And I don't really understand the whole reputation part. I understand a few of the other ones. I understand maybe the treasure hunt part. It's only 100 treasures, and you've got the maps you can do. I understand the exploring part and all that, because all that makes sense, because with that stuff, you have to explore the world with your ground mount. But reputation grind, I don't see how you explore.
With the discovering all the areas of the map, they can't have it where you can't reach a certain section of the map.
Yeah.
We've all been there in the past where we want to get up a hill for that damn node, and we can't do it. No matter how hard you try, you can't get up there.
Yeah. And the thing I'm curious about most is how they're going to do it in future expansions more than anything. It's because it sounds like they're going to do this meta achievement thing for future expansions, but I'm wondering, are they going to wait till first patch? Are they going to wait for the 0.2 of that expansion? Or how are they going to do that if they go for, like they did this time, where they locked a zone, Tannin Jungle, behind a patch wall? And I wonder how that's going to actually play out. Are they going to wait till the entire continent's unlocked before they allow flying meta achievement to be done or whatnot?
I'm okay if, say, you have your continent and then the first tier of the raid is on that continent, and then you have another island for the next tier, like Throne of Thunder or Hellfire. Not being able to fly there, but being able to fly in the old stuff.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And then once this current island is the obsolete rating tier, allow you to fly there then. I'm okay not being able to fly in the cutting edge part of it. That I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I have no problem with not flying for a decent amount of time. It just, as long as they give good reasons about it and stuff, and we do eventually get to fly in the new zone before it's obsolete.
The whole statement about it will break the treasure finding stuff, piss off.
Yeah.
The only reason I found the treasures was it gave me XP.
Yeah, and I believe he brings that up in the Q&A too, that he didn't feel like the treasures hit the mark. Because after you get the level cap, they're pretty much, what's the point? They're all for lower levels, like a lot of the gear and weapons you get. And I'm hoping next time they do treasures, at least maybe it's gold or things you could use at level cap or something like that. Especially in the Spires of, well, I can never get this name right. Spires of Iraq. Or Iraq or Rick, whatever.
Bird place.
They have these treasures there that it's an XP boost. It increases your rested XP. And if you find those at level cap, those are completely and totally useless. You can't even vendor that shit.
Right.
So it's like, why are you so adamant about me finding this at level cap? It's like you're finding trash on the street. It's like, oh, look, trash. I'm going to keep this.
I would also like to see the treasures, if they're going to keep that in the game and want to modify it and make it more user-friendly, if that's the word. Forgive me, I'm tired. But when I pick up a treasure, it's a weapon, my class can use it.
Yeah.
Because I picked up a dagger on every character that I leveled, and nobody can use it except for my rogue when she leveled. Which ended up being bad because I want the spec that does maces and yeah, whatever.
The spec that does slow weapons, you mean?
Yeah.
There's no mace spec anymore. That died in Burning Crusade. Rest in peace.
Then a question was why add flying last moment? People liked it without it, and why it's on change of heart. And Watcher had he says it made him sad that players were talking about flying the way they were, and a term that you're taught. I don't know how many people went to a supervisor class or whatnot. You're taught to never say the word never when you're talking to people.
Yeah.
Like if one of your subordinates come to you with an idea, no matter how stupid it is, you never say never.
And my wife my wife actually agreed with him on one thing he said during that is people work really hard to get the flying mounts, that the special ones that you have to go back and do old raids for and all that. And you have to do a lot of work for. And then suddenly if they don't allow flying, that you can only use 50% of that mount, that special mount that you work so hard to get. It's only 50% useful because the mount can go on the ground, but it can also fly, and you're losing the ability to do flying. So, and he did admit to that, like that was a concern. So they at least were thinking about those too.
He brought up the ashes of the Phoenix mount from Tempest Keep, right? He
ashes of I will never get it because it's a low drop rate.
I personally, I actually got it in this expansion. I posted on our Facebook page, and I was ecstatic when I got it. But I hearth to the shrine just so I could fly on it, because where else can I fly with it?
Yeah.
I mean, I can go to Stormwind and fly when I go to Stormwind. I do use it, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? As I was saying before, OBS decided it was going to stop streaming. See, stuff like that is what makes me go, you know what? Screw it. Reinstall the entire operating system. Next one was about the reps and being mob grinds.
I'm glad that he admitted that they suck, and he said, I won't defend them.
Yeah, just like the Apex crystals.
Yeah.
He admitted they missed the mark, and he won't defend it.
Yeah. Of course, the explanation for the mob grinds that he gave was pretty much felt like, oh, last minute we just threw something in there. And I'm like, I knew it. I knew this shit was something last minute or something.
Right?
There's no way any thought got put into this. It's at least they admitted it, so I'll cut them slack on that as far as that goes, because if they had tried to fluff it up and try and defend it and all that, then I probably would be more mad at them. But the fact that they admit it kind of gives me hope that it's not going to happen again, or at least not
Right.
next expansion anyway. So that's one area where I actually was happy with the answer to the response to the question for the Q&A. So
Right. And the Apex crystals, they suck, and he admitted they suck, which was great.
yeah,
And he brought up the point they do a pendulum. Say it for me, Mike. Pendulum.
pendulum.
Sure.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah. When they go from one extreme to the other and skipping that middle spot that cuts the body in half. And I hope that they learn from the Apex idea that I'm not sure if it's in here in this Q&A section here, but I know you brought up about the badges and all. And from
he mentioned that he actually liked the badge system, and
Yeah.
they are considering on bringing that back.
they definitely should bring it back.
I believe he said something
That-
about bringing it back in a capacity where there'll be badge vendors again, and the gear you can get will be pretty good or something like that.
Right. I think that tied into this Apex idea with bringing back dailies without locking top raid gear behind it, without locking top enchants or whatever behind it, will work out well.
Yeah.
That's just my thinking, and that's the vibe I got from him when he was talking about it. And then what we've been saying for almost every podcast, just like our PvP comments. Leveling in Draenor is fine. I
Yeah.
got no issues with it.
It's getting to the end
Granted-
game, that's the problem.
Granted, after my 5th character, I kind of gave up on leveling because,
Yeah, you
But-
don't really have as many choices with it for ults. Like, you can't start in a different zone or something.
right. But at max level, Garrison, log off. Garrison, log off. Raid, log off. And they are trying to fix that somewhat with the new zone. If you want the new Bloods thing, you have to go out and mine the node out there or pick the flower out there. So they're trying to rebound. Having the gathering profession inside of a garrison, it's a good idea, but again, the pendulum thing. I like the idea of my character who isn't a miner having a mine in their garrison. I didn't like the fact that I don't know how to mine, but I can go down there and mine the stuff. But the second I walk out that front gate, I'm dumber than a box of rocks about this shiny looking metal thing popping out of the ground. Or I can pick a flower, but once I go up across that archway, I don't know how to pick out weed. So I hope they keep something like that, but not to the extreme they have it now, where I literally stopped mining on any character that didn't need the ore. Like, my shaman still mines for the XP, and he's a jewel crafter.
Yeah.
And I have, after I just made stuff to DE stuff, because I needed dust, I still have like close to 20,000 of each ore.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of my own.
Don't get me started on flowers. But the flowers are more useful because right now I keep the guild bank stocked with the flowers and stocked with the flasks and potions, so that helps out there. Another question was about Warlords being geared for one player. and
One
alts aren't.
character.
Yeah, alts aren't being utilized or not being fun. Was Burnout a design for Warlords? And no, it wasn't.
Well, obviously it wasn't, but
It was a byproduct and a very bad byproduct. They are looking into it, which is good.
I feel like the question only answers half of the concern. I don't know about the person who asked the question, what they were looking for, but personally, when I
Uh-huh.
heard that question, what I was looking for was not only just talking about the end game, which he does, but talking about the actual leveling. Because after like the third or fourth, depending on the person, alt,
hmm
you've leveled through the exact same zones, the exact same quests. Even the bonus quests aren't even that exciting anymore. And it's because you don't have any other option but to go through the exact same linear questing experience.
hmm
It's like I've leveled 2 characters to level cap, and I've been trying to level my tank and my healer to level cap, and I just can't do it because I'm just so tired of doing the same quests. Because there's really only 2 options. You could do it as Alliance, then you can do it as Horde. And after that, you've pretty much done it both ways you could do it and keep it fresh. And now you're just rehashing the same old stuff, linear content.
Right.
And
With his answer, though, I don't feel that it solved or answered a bigger question, a bigger issue I had with it.
yep,
What he talked
mostly it
about
was
was
about nerfing how much
ma-
money you can get.
yeah, it was maintaining the garrison side of things.
Yeah.
For me, it's the getting your legendary ring, gearing
Yeah,
up the
that too.
characters, because it's very hard to do a heroic now when people don't need to run them.
Yeah.
Granted, Mythic will solve some of the issue, Time Walker will solve some of the issue. However, leveling an alt or gearing up an alt just isn't fun. I took my paladin when I got her ready to start doing some raids. I had to run through first raid of the expansion. Wow, drawing a blank. What was the first raid of this expansion?
Hi, Mo.
Thank you. Time of LFR, and it wasn't fun because you either had people who completely outgeared it and were just there to be trolls, or you were on the complete opposite end of that where it was everybody just walking into it and too difficult to explain to everybody how to fight. I got very tired of explaining how to do the first, the second, and the third boss after like 4 wipes in LFR. I hate to say it, but all the competent players have already moved on. And the few competent players who walk in there get punished. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, again, this answer didn't answer all the alt issues with me, but it helped out some with the maintaining of the garrisons. So,
Yeah. And still, I don't think if they reduce the amount of gold you get from doing it on alt, you still make more gold doing it on alts anyway. So
oh
it's,
yeah,
unless you eliminate alts being able to make gold altogether, I don't think anything they can do right now is going to change the fact that people log on to all their alts to do their missions and all that.
Mhm.
I think, if anything, if they decrease the amount of gold you can get, it'll just piss a bunch of people off just because now they're making gold slower and slower, and people don't like that kind of thing.
Okay, you take the next question one.
Gotta find my place. Oh, they asked, have you learned about what didn't work with garrisons and why no one leaves their garrison? And pretty much garrisons offer too much of a reward. Is the answer, which I agree with, because they do offer way too much of a reward for just sitting around the garrison, point, click, wait, which ties into the next question too. But that's the main problem I've always had with garrisons, is just there's no reason to leave because everything you could possibly want, even raid gear, comes from your garrison.
And that's one thing I disagree with. From what I'm understanding, they're going to back off on that part with the next next tier.
Yeah.
I think making that tool smarter would be more beneficial. Meaning, it's already on a 2-week rotation or week rotation. I forget which one, but if you haven't gotten a gear upgrade for that rotation, slide it in there. Give that player a little bit of an upgrade. However, if a player hasn't gotten an upgrade from normal, heroic, or mythic, then their box just gives them a lot of gold.
Yeah. I kind of felt like the box you get from missions shouldn't be able to proc into a Warforged. And maybe that might give you more reason to run the raids, because the raids would give you Warforged. You have a chance to get it there. But if the box gives you Warforged, then I don't really see why the box needs to give you Warforged.
Maybe make it an LFR piece, just boost it up item level wise, and obviously stat wise.
Something like that.
And not be able to get a socket, not be able to be Warforged.
Yeah. Warforged is supposed to be something special that you get from actually doing the raid, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like it should be something like, hey, I actually did the raid, so I got this Warforged piece. Check me out, instead of, oh, I got a Warforged piece from the thing I got from just sending a NPC to do the work for me.
Right. Literally right now in Blackrock, I know Cougar and myself and Tharder, for a fact, cannot get any upgrades unless an item is Warforged or we go past the bosses we're currently working on. The mace I got last raid, and the reason why I took it is because it had a gem socket.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I took it.
And really, if I don't see why they don't just make it where you get epics that aren't from the raid, but they're still decent epics, but they're maybe not optimized to your class or something like they used to do back in the day, where they had a separate set of epics. But
right.
Just more reasons to actually go to the raids instead of wait for your gear to come to you from your NPCs. But yeah, I agree with his answer that garrisons over reward you, because that's true in so many ways. They over reward you in professions, they over reward you in gold, over reward you in garrison resources, which I feel like those just flood in. I don't know what to do with them half the time. They over reward you with even the Savage Bloods. If you get the daily vendor, then you could just sell all your herbs that you don't need and like your mountains and mountains of herbs to them, and then suddenly you have a bunch of daily bloods you could throw on the auction house for 500 gold apiece.
Right.
And you just get too much from your garrison. Plus, you could have an auctioneer in there, you could have a bank in there, you could have, I think a bank. Yeah, a bank. Mm-hmm. And you could have all this stuff in your garrison, and it's like, what's left for the outside world?
Right.
And most people will take the path of least resistance to get what they want. Mm-hmm. And the garrison is the path of least resistance. And I think if they're planning on doing something like the garrison in the next expansion, they need to really think about toning it down like quite a bit to make it where the garrison is, while it's still useful, it shouldn't provide you everything you could possibly need. It shouldn't be like a 5-star resort where your NPCs wait on you hand and foot and say, oh, I got this epic in the raid today, you could have it.
I
And
think a lot of that would have been wow, would have not been an issue if we would have had a major city in this expansion.
yeah, maybe. I was
Next
half
one is
expecting them to announce in 6.2 that you get a portal to every major city in your garrison.
oh wow,
It's like, by the way, if you do this long ass quest chain, you can get unlock portals to every major city in your garrison. I was just waiting for that announcement. And I'll be like, well, I'm done. 'Cause I could, until I read this, I would not have put that past them.
the next one about the point, click, and wait system of the garrison. How is it different than shipyard? It's really not. There's going to be fewer missions, fewer ships to send out.
Ships can break.
I agree that that style of gameplay is nice in the game for the offline progression, like you said.
Yeah.
However, again, like you said, checking every 30 minutes does negatively affect it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with the shipyard being I log on at 7 in the morning, I go push a couple buttons, and I don't got to worry about it or check on it until 7 at night or next morning.
I almost feel like a lot of the missions that they do should be like 24 hours, and so there's no reason to go back and check it.
Mm-hmm.
In those,
right now,
the followers that decrease the mission time, I don't really think they should have put those in. Just make it where it's 24 hours. You set it at the beginning of the day, and then you don't have to check it till you wake up tomorrow in the morning. Then you check your followers, send them back out, and go out into the world and actually do stuff. Go
right
outside.
now, you feel like you're being inefficient if you don't have an add-on that tells you, "Oh, hey, look, your monks' missions are done. Go check them and send them back out."
And especially since it's led to this whole thing where people have been asking for an iPhone app or Android app that lets you do your missions while you're away from WoW. And it's like, it just makes me feel like, okay, so basically this is what WoW is being reduced to, an iPhone or Android app.
Hey, I still want the WoW Armory. I still want the WoW Armory app to have the role ID feature in it. Right now, if I'm not on my computer and I want to see who's on role ID, I have to log into Here's a Storm on my phone.
Yeah. And I can understand all that, like having real ID on your phone, having stuff like that. But it's when you get to the point where garrisons are such a big thing where you pretty much wait by the table so you don't miss out on collecting a mission and then resending your NPC out that you suddenly want an iPhone app. So while you're at work or your cousin's wedding or wherever, you're still technically standing by the table waiting for your followers to get back so you can send them right back out on missions.
So for you people who are that obsessed with your missions, if you have Google Chrome installed, there's an app and a plugin you can get that. Let me find it. It's called Remote Desktop on Google Chrome. You got to put passwords and all that stuff in. But what you can do is, from your phone or your smart device, whatever, you can take control of your computer, log into WoW, click on the table, do your thing, do all that, and then log off.
Yeah.
All from your phone.
Yeah, I have that. I don't use it for that, but I have that thing.
Oh, yeah. I got it for the fact that whenever we were before we were live streaming onto your channel, we would record it, and I would edit the video, upload it to my server, you download it. There was a couple times where the file got corrupted, and I wasn't home to take care of it. That's why I got that app, so I can take it over my computer and upload the shit.
Yeah.
The feature expansions have something like the garrison, just like everything they've done. Last couple expansions, like the garden expanded to the garrison. I see something along the same system happening. I don't see a garrison happening. Again, that's what he said. I would love for the future garrison-like thing to be a guild house or something like that. And we've talked about how that would work in a previous podcast.
And they talked about your followers having some role to play in future expansions, like something like that. And hopefully it's not something that's point and click, but I think they've learned their lesson this time. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like the followers need a vacation, considering that most players just sit at the table, and as soon as the follower gets back, it's like, go back out and do this thing for me. I almost picture the followers just going like, but I... just
right,
going back out, and they come back and they have sleep bags under their eyes, and you're like working them to death.
Oh, thank God they're offline. Son of a bitch. In the next
expansion, I hope they do. Your followers get a vacation. They go to this island resort. You'll see them there towards the end of the expansion. All your followers are on the island sipping from coconuts, and
then there was a talk about declining in rating and the change they made. Was it a good? And I haven't really seen a decline in rating. I've seen people I used to raid with stop rating, but that's just because we're getting older, and unfortunately. You know,
yeah. What he says about the decline in raid guilds makes sense as guild masters and stuff move on with their lives. Usually, someone doesn't want to take up the reins, so especially on the bigger guilds when it's more stressful, like the hardcore raiding guilds. Not a lot of people want to take guild leadership of something like that. Because you take guild leadership of a major raiding guild, then all of a sudden that takes over your life, and nobody wants that. So that's really the reason why a lot of these major raiding guilds kind of fall by the wayside every now and then. It's just part of the cycle.
The main thing that has kept regulators, at least whenever I've been the guild master of it, okay for me to manage is I surround myself with officers who I can trust to take care of something when I'm offline and not constantly have to micromanage everything. Perfect example, I decided we needed another recruiting officer. Mid-raid on Saturday, I was in officer chat talking and taking suggestions and giving out my suggestions, and we promoted a person to an officer to be a recruiting officer. Because the two recruiting officers we currently have had some real life stuff happen. So nobody got fired. We just added another person to take care of recruiting for the guild. So I understand the whole. It's a stressful thing. It is. I spent a week making a new guild website. Because our old one was coming down. That was stressful. You know, nowadays, like how hard is making a website? Well, I like to modify my websites. If I don't like the way a layout is displayed on a certain CMS, I want to be able to change it, and knowing the code is part of that. So yeah. Then you always have some sort of drama you gotta deal with somewhere along the lines. We had a player I had to talk to about him rolling on BOEs that he didn't need. He was doing it for the gold, and I explained to him he was taking money from the guild.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know how many people have seen it yet, but Sunday I stealth increased everybody's repair allowance again. The way we're seeing on cash right now, I was like, yeah, everybody can have, I think it was like 10 gold more.
So if anyone's watching that's part of the Cinerian Circle, Regulators wants you.
Uh, is Mythic rating with its bonuses justified for a small percentage? I agree. It is. If you're not pushing your players, people aren't pushing themselves, the game isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
Like I said before, personally, I've stepped back from that hardcore rating, so whenever I was doing it, I did enjoy the extra nuggets that Blizzard gave. What are your thoughts?
I don't really have too many thoughts on it. Just, I really never was a hardcore raider.
Okay, then we'll go to the why is time walking limited to a certain time. They want to make it more of a activity opposed to a requirement to grind, which I'm cool with. However, I kind of wish that I'd be able to pick which one I was doing, because personally I love the Wrath dungeons. Not so much of a fan on Burning Crusade dungeons.
Yeah.
If it was a dungeon weekend, I would prefer to be able to pick which one I go to.
Yeah. I kind of agree what he says about it allows them to make it more capable for gearing up ults and stuff without butting heads with the other instances. If they make the gear a certain eye level and they made time walking all week, then obviously everyone's going to just do time walking, or because if the gear's better. So it does give them that opportunity. So I agree with that.
Talking about the Warlords dungeons becoming obsolete pretty quickly, and there's where he brings up about the not having badges, and now adding the mythic difficulty to give them some more life.
Parentheses, Mystic was right.
I still really think in your patch cycles and you're planning for an expansion, you need to have new 5-man content come out with a raid. Yeah, mythic content's great and all. Bringing back a badge system is great. But even giving that badge or that more difficult setting is still going to get stale.
Yeah.
Hell, back in Wrath, we were to keep the dungeons interesting. We would either pull half a room, or I would tank as Rhett, or we would do a no healer run. To do something until the new 5-mans came out, and then we were excited again.
Yeah.
Right now, I have friends who came back to the game, and I'm playing with them in hopes of them to come to our guild, and they needed to do their ring quest. And all those dungeons suck. What was even worse was for the most part, there were some they knew, but for the most part, I was the only one who knew the strategies on the encounters between everybody in the group. And I got tired of explaining how to do it over and over again.
Do it this way. Now do it this way. Do this, and win.
Right? It wasn't so much having to explain to people, it was the players who saw the item level I was at and would just be stupid and pull stuff.
Like, he's at a high item level. He must be God.
Yeah. Stop being stupid and pulling shit. there were many times I just let people die. I stopped AoE attacking. It's like, nope, you pulled it, you die. That's what makes me despise running content with people who don't understand it this late in the expansion. Not because of having to explain it, because 9 chances out of 10, you're going to have that one player in the group who goes, oh, he's rig geared, so he's going to save me from everything and just pull everything. No, jackass, you're going to die, because I will refuse to heal you. Or, yeah, heal you. Pull thread off of you. Back when I was a pally tank, I would bubble myself. Oh, you want to play that game? Okay, bubble. Now you have all the ads. Have fun.
Just give some tanks feign death.
Right? I'm a bear. I should be able to feign death.
Play dead.
Right. And here he talks about the question was no new dungeons, rehash old dungeons, and a adventure journal. Is this a new plan? Is this the new plan? I'm cool with the working on the tech for scaling, as long as it's not just used for a time walker, not just used for rehashing old content.
Yeah, and like you can see throughout the past expansions too, the coding was actually there. It's just slowly been making its way to this point where it can be used in Time Walker. It's not like they've just made it specifically for Time Walker from the ground up. So
right. I would love, like I said before, love to be able to go to downscale myself and go run with a friend who's just starting out in the game.
Yeah.
And the adventure journal, I really do think is a great advancement on the tool we already have in the game.
Yeah. Again, that didn't really take away anyone that normally works on dungeons. That's the UI team. UI team probably just sits back and relaxes for most dungeon stuff. It's
right. So he does say it's not them not wanting to add stuff. They just want to do the Time Walker and all this stuff for a while, so that's what they worked on.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that answer if it didn't happen in MOP as well. Not the Time Walker or any of that, just the no new 5-mans.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming one of their trends.
Yeah. If this was a one-off, if this is the first time it happened, I would go, okay, I'm okay with that.
And he mentions later that the reason there's no new 5-mans is because the people that normally work on 5-mans are working on the raid. And it's, why can't they work on them all at the same time? Why can't they just have the 5-mans be cut off sections of the raid or something? Or and instead of making like a 13 boss raid, maybe cut off 2 or 3 or 4 of those bosses and make those 5-man bosses that maybe can lead up to the raid for 2 5-man instances or something, or something like that.
Right.
Because then you're pretty much, the art team basically would just be designing the same art they're designing for the raid. They'll just be designing a little bit more of it, and there's reskinning they could do. There's all sorts of other stuff they could do, and it feels like that would be a better way to handle it. It's like, do we really need super, super, super long raids anyway? Because, I mean, hardcore players are going to blow through the raid anyway, and casual players most likely aren't going to make it to the end of the raid anyway. And, like, for instance, BlackRock right now kind of feels like it's a little too long, because even our group is really casual, and we've made a decent way in, but it still feels like there's so much left to go.
It feels like that, but if you take a step back and look at it, we only had Blast Furnace, Iron Maidens, and Black Hand to fight.
Yeah, it just feels to me like it has just been a very long journey trying to get to the end. And I can understand them wanting to make long raids, because the longer the raid, the longer time it takes casual groups to get through it. Obviously, the hardcore groups are just going to blow through it anyway until so they could do it on heroic and mythic. But I feel like it wouldn't hurt them to knock off just a couple bosses and make those 5-mans that maybe lead into the raid story wise or something. Or
it's a possibility. Next question was about Time Walker Dungeons having what place they see them having it with LFR, and they just say you can quickly gear up on it with on the weekend.
You can spam.
You can chain run these versus LFR where you can't. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and the Time Walker Dungeons give you that extra bonus roll thing.
Right. I have two favorite ones here of this whole Q&A. Why are you nerfing Demonology Warlocks to the ground?
This one caused so much blow up.
Because they'd rather you not play Demonology. I love that.
Yeah. This particular question is just blown up on the web. There's so much rage about it. And I feel like he answered it wrong. Well, funny in some places.
I do think people took it way out of context.
Yeah, it blew way out of proportion, and I feel like he maybe should have been a little more careful handling this question.
But I don't play a Warlock, so I really can't talk in this. I just know that they want players to try other specs and play other specs. And when you have a spec that is that overwhelmingly popular due to its output, then there is something wrong. And you need to adjust numbers.
Yeah. And I can understand having a favorite spec, like this spec that you want to play and you want to play and do well at, because I was like that with Subtility for the longest time. From Burning Crusade all the way up to Cataclysm, I was hardcore. I play Subtility Rogue. And it's just, I really, really like the playstyle of the Subtility spec. But obviously, Subtility wasn't the best for raiding for the longest time.
Right.
And so I can understand when Blizzard's saying we're going to nerf your spec. And it's almost like them saying they're nerfing the entire class for some people, because if you like the playstyle of that spec, you don't want to see it drop below the other specs in DPS. And a lot of people have this assumption that all three specs should be the exact same DPS. And really, that's something that's super hard to do as far as making sure they're all balanced, because that takes a lot of math. It takes a lot of finagling with it. And all that. So in order for them to give all three specs a chance, sometimes the spec has to take a hit. And I can understand that. But I feel the way he answered this kind of makes it feel like people who love to play Demonology Warlocks, like really love the feel of the spec and all that, feel like they're getting screwed just because the way he says it like, well, you've had your day in the sun, now we're going to give it to the other two, screw you. That's kind of the whole tone. That's the whole tone I got from the answer. And I think that's why it blew up so much, is because basically what you're saying to Demonology Warlocks is, screw you, you're going to be lowest DPS of the Warlocks for who knows how long. Because that's the other thing that it brings up, is how long until Demonology is brought back up? How long until it's their time in the sun again? Because there's been, like, for instance, like I said with Subtility, it was horrible rating spec up till like Cataclysm. Like, it was never the best until towards Cataclysm started getting up there, and now it's actually pretty damn good. And that could happen with Demonology Locks. They could go a few expansions and be horrible until Blizzard decides, okay, you guys can have your DPS back. So right. I feel like he could have been a little more artful in answering this question. A little more in depth, a little more explanation to kind of get the players to understand, instead of being a little more instead of what he did where he's more sarcastic with it, tried to be funny with it. And it's basically the overall tone to someone that plays that spec is basically, screw you, your spec is now horrible until we say otherwise.
Right.
And I can understand all the demonology locks that blew up over that. I understand where they're coming from, but I feel like there's a better answer for that that makes more sense. And but he just kind of missed the mark on that answer. I was actually surprised when he gave that answer too. I'm like, did you think about this before you said it?
Right.
I knew it would cause a blow up, and but at the same time, this question's kind of a trap. I feel like no matter how he answered it, I feel like it would have caused some sort of blow up of some kind, and it's a really really tough question to answer. So maybe that's why he took this path, because he's just like, well, anything I say is going to be taken out of proportion or out of context or anything like that. So let's just go crazy with it.
Yeah, I've done that before. I've had someone ask a question, worked under me, that I had no way to turn it around to be a good statement or reply on my end. So
yeah. You need to act part there saying it's a trap.
Yeah. Next one was, did they feel ability printing went too far?
Yes.
It did, but I do agree with him saying this isn't MMODDR. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But they can do it. They think they can do a lot better with it. Which, yeah.
Yeah, I think some things they took away that they really shouldn't have taken away, and
divine intervention for a paladin.
But it's not just that they shouldn't have taken away; it's that they really didn't need to take it away. Because when I first heard about ability pruning, my thoughts on it were, oh, they're just going to condense the abilities down to the abilities you use, like you need to use, the ones that actually affect your DPS. They're going to condense them down so I don't have so much clutter on my bar. It's like, oh, well, that sounds great. And then they take away things like disarm trap and stuff, which really were buttons that some players didn't have on their bar anyway, because half the time you didn't use it. And when you did have to use it, you just clicked on the trap and it used it for you.
Right.
And it's like that disarm trap was, well, to me personally, at least, a staple ability for the rogue. It's what made you feel like a rogue, just like detect trap, which went right along with it, and stuff like that. And especially when they started using it in ICC, where you had these traps you disarm, it's like, oh yeah, awesome, maybe they'll do this for other raids, and then they just take that ability away. And I can understand removing the disarm, for instance, where that actually affects something. That actually is something that legitimately affects as part of the game, PvP. And so while I didn't like it, I can understand them taking that away. But I could not understand, why are they taking away my disarm trap? Why are they taking away my slightly better stealth and all this other stuff that makes me feel like I'm a rogue and brings flavor to the class. And that's where I think they went too far, is they took away abilities that bring this flavor to the class, and it kind of destroys a lot of the class identity that has already kind of been falling by the wayside recently, I feel. But,
no, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
And he didn't really answer about those kind of abilities either. It just, but at the end he did say, he did kind of, it felt like he hinted that they're going to try and look into it and maybe bring stuff to bring back class identity, but that's maybe me reading into it. But
right. Then my next favorite statement was about the throughput of healers. And
must be a disc priest.
Yep, if you have a healer in your raid, they need to be disc. At least one of them. Only because disc priests are that overpowered. And that's not a great place for that spec to be, but it seems like the disc and holy war for a priest keeps going back and forth. And unfortunately it spills over into the other healing classes. If you have a priest and you don't have these orbs going on, you're doing it wrong. Which I agree with.
Yeah.
I love my disc priest. I mean, I don't play them, but when I'm tanking, I love having one of those. Even so much that the priest that is my friend, I'm slowly converting him over to disc because it's better.
Yeah. At least he admits
But yeah,
this isn't a great place to be for it and that they want to change it, but it's not going to change by 6.2.
mm-hmm.
Which I think if they felt that way, they may have. I feel like they should have made some sort of change to show that they actually want to change it by 6.2. Because if they've already felt this way, then they should have already slated something for it. But I don't know.
Yeah, but it's probably the same statement we've gotten before that we didn't catch it soon enough, and there's so many raid teams that have a composition around that.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
And you can't just change that on your raiders where, all right, we can take down boss X this week. This class was changed and we can't take down boss X.
Yeah. Plus I guess it's kind of a tough change trying to figure out how do you make absorbs not more powerful than actual heals.
Right. And that's a key game mechanic for a disc priest, absorbing damage.
Yeah.
The next one's about professions. Some things are good, but they're really boring. And warlords. Problem is, professions are just boring. Period. They need revamped.
That's pretty much every MMO too. It's
I don't know why nobody can get it right.
Yeah, very rarely you ever see professions worth doing in any MMO. It's just half the time when I'm leveling in an MMO, I don't even pick up professions till level cap, and even then I wait forever to do it until I'm completely bored.
Like, I liked aspects of Rift professions at the time when I played it. I liked aspects of Elder Scrolls Online profession when I played that, but nothing has actually done it good.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is just at the end of the day, professions is like having a job in game, and no one wants to do that. Plus, it's the whole mass production assembly line factor, where just click create all, and then your character just stands there mass producing the exact same product over and over again. Which not only doesn't make sense, but it's extremely boring gameplay.
Next one, the idea of mythic fight being longer, and I understand some players who are just freshly stepping into progression rating or mythic rating now, but those longer encounters mean you have to play so much better than the average player.
Yeah.
Being able to keep up for that 10, 15-minute fight. Not stand in fire, not misuse your cooldowns.
It becomes like an endurance game at that point.
Yeah.
In some ways.
That was fun. I did enjoy that part of the game.
And Mythic is kind of push yourself to the limits sort of thing. It's like you're at the pinnacle of rating in World of Warcraft, so you should be pushing yourself to the limits. You should be pushing yourself to go that extra mile to endurance, and especially if you're in a hardcore rating guild, you've already set aside that time anyway. So,
right. You take on the next question.
I'd really like to know why you are making everything so convenient, and do you think things are too convenient? I think that kind of ties into the whole Garrison thing. Garrison's being over rewarding for conveniences, but he answers, we don't want inconvenience to stop you from doing things, but we do want to keep convenience in mind, and I can understand that. There is a point where you can be so inconvenient that players don't want to do anything, and then there's the point where you're so convenient that players for instance, sit around in their garrison clicking on their table over
Right.
and over again. And
That's honestly a hard balance for any developer to do.
yeah, it's so, and I can understand the struggle with it. It's win-lose situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to find that middle ground of, and so I can understand all that. So understand the difficulties and struggles.
Next one's about the integrity of the art and the Twitter / selfie patch. I still hate the Twitter integration, even though, like you said, it's not in your face. You have to go into options, enable, blah, 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 blah. And the selfie cam and all that stuff was developers coming on the weekend working on it because they were passionate about it. And being able to do something in a company as large as Blizzard that you're passionate about and it gets in the game is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand working at a place and you get this idea, and so you don't want to take company time to do it, so, or the company doesn't want you to take company time to do it, so it's just like a side project you come in on the weekends and do or something. And it gets in the game, you're like, yeah, I was behind that.
However, you need to be smart about it, though. Your player base is already saying there's not content to do. They're already ready to raise the pitchforks and torches at the main office due to the no content, due to the no flying. You need to be smart about it and not release something like this whenever you have other issues going on.
Yeah.
Nobody, let me rephrase, I can't say nobody. I don't think we'd have as many people complaining about it, myself included, if, now that we have flying coming in, if this stuff would have been introduced with the flying patch.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot less complaining about it.
And like I said before, a lot of the stuff Blizzard seems to put in mid-expansion, I feel like really deserves to be at the start of an expansion instead. Like, they're good selling points for an expansion. I don't know about Twitter and selfie integration so much, but there are people that like Twitter and there are people that like selfie that play WoW. I don't really feel like there's as many of them, but obviously I could be wrong because I don't speak for the entire World of Warcraft community.
Right.
It's not for me, but I do admit it is probably for someone else who plays WoW. Someone else does enjoy it. And I feel like they're better served as selling points on the box of the next expansion. Just like, same thing for Time Walker Dungeons. I feel like release timing would have been better if you would have saved those for the next expansion to put them on the box of the next expansion. Of buy our expansion and you get Time Walker Dungeons, selfie cameras, and Twitter integration.
Right.
And then that the beginning of it, and one of the reasons for that is the beginning of the expansion is a time when players aren't so much worried about more content and getting more 5-mans and getting more raids and all that. That usually at that time they're just hyped for the next expansion. They're all this new stuff, so you could sort of sneak it in there at that point without much complaint, because then players are more distracted about leveling, getting level caps, seeing all this new content and all that. Whereas mid-expansion is when you really got to focus on your patches being more about content, because that's when your player base is actually they're all at level cap and they're actually starting to crave more content. And when you release a patch, it doesn't matter if some guy did it on the weekend. It doesn't matter if it took the programming team who were twiddling their thumbs or not. If you put in a patch something that players don't really agree with, the first thing they're going to assume is, oh, this took development time from what I wanted. And so I think that's one of the things Blizzard has missed the mark on for the last 2 or 3 expansions with their patch releases is their timing on a lot of stuff that they choose to do. I don't know if it's a marketing thing or something that they're just missing the mark on, but if it was me personally doing their marketing and all that, I would say oh, just save that feature for the next expansion. We'll just throw that in then.
Now, playing a other side of a coin here, I can't really say devil's advocate, but just hear me out on this. I can kind of understand why they want to release some content in between, like the Time Walker. As much as I've said that should be a selling point for the next expansion, it comes a point where if you have all these great ideas and you want to release them, if you put them all with the next expansion and you don't have as many new ideas for the following expansion, people are going to think that you're just being lazy. Like, look, expansion Dark Soul Ground thing had 12 new features, but expansion Lightwell P only had 5. They're getting lazy. So I can kind of see that to a point.
I mean, another thing they could do is...
Am I making sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, another thing they could do that could maybe solve that is just release this stuff at least during a major rating patch or something, where it's a small thing that's overshadowed by the rating or something, or instead of like they did this time where it's 6.1 selfie camera, whereas like the main feature thing. I think that's the other mistake they did is they brought too much attention to something that not a majority of the player base maybe was interested in. I can't say for sure because I haven't done any polls or anything to actually know if it was the majority of the player base or not. But I remember 6.1 coming out. The first thing I saw on the patch notes at the very top was selfie cameras, Twitter integration. Yeah. And that kind of made that the focus of the patch. And really it should be new raid coming. And then like down in the patch notes somewhere, Twitter integration and selfie camera, and then just move on. And if you make it a focus, that's another thing, is if you make it a focus of a patch, that's all the more reason for players to get up in arms about it. It's because that when it's the focus of a patch, like one of the highlights of the patch, players are like, so this is all the patch is about. Especially the people that just sort of skim over the Battle.net launcher announcement of the patch. They just see that first picture that says selfie camera, Twitter integration. Yeah. So I think they could practice a little more finesse with it, a little more strategy. But obviously I'm not a marketing professional. But I feel like they could do better on just the strategy of it. Timing.
All right, and the next thing is the Wire Tier 18 and 6.2 PvP sets recolors of each other. Mike?
That's not really something that's new. That was done in Burning Crusade even. It probably saves on their art team a little bit so they can focus more on the raid, but I do prefer when they do separate sets for each, but with the way a lot of the armor has been coming out nowadays, I'm kind of glad that they didn't try.
We haven't seen Transformer shoulders for a very long time, thank God.
Yeah. Well, like personally, I haven't seen any sets that I would actually not transmog for a very long time either. It was actually kind of funny. I was on my Twitter the other day, and Facebook, and Blizzard linked the picture of what the Paladin set's going to look like, and they said, this will be the statement they said underneath the picture was, this will be transmogged on your armor for a long time to come, or something like that. Like they were boasting about how good it looked and all that, and about 90% of the comments responding to that is, you mean this is something I will just transmog over with something better because it looks like shit. And I kind of feel bad for the artists that maybe have to read all those comments to his armor design, but it kind of shows that a lot of the armor design recently just seems to be missing the mark compared to how they used to do.
I never actually looked at it, but I do like that armor set.
The Paladin one?
Yeah, I just brought up on the screen now.
Oh. Well, apparently a lot of other people don't.
Well, see, the problem I have is I mained the Paladin for so long. I love the Paladin sets, but I like the playstyle of the Monk, and I despise the armor sets. They do not look appealing to me whatsoever.
But obviously that's an objective thing, and
Yeah.
or subjective, or whatever the word is. And that,
Well, then
that
there's
goes by
fancy words.
player to player. Yeah, that's player to player. There's no real way to see if it actually is shit, but just that's my personal opinion on it. But
Right.
I'm
And then
not one of those people that's really going to go up in arms about them recoloring tier 18 to 6.2 PvP sets. It's like, meh. Plus, if you PvP, you don't care about art. No, I'm just kidding.
right. And the last question showing up here, thanks to Wahid, is why is there no agility weapons dropping off of Archimon? No 735 weapons for agility users? I loved it again. Come on, seriously. You're fighting this guy. Who's gonna have a 735 weapon?
Nobody.
Right.
It's all about the EP.
But they are doing the whole progression item getting stronger as you get deeper into the raid, which I always felt should have been a thing, but wasn't. So it's really not it's a non-issue, really.
Yeah, really, it's all about EPing. It's just
Yeah.
like I want to do elite DPS on the training dummy so that I could take a screenshot of it and post it to all my friends and brag about how my class does 50 billion DPS when your class only does 2.
Right?
And I think that's really all that kind of comes down to, is just people waving their EPs around.
Yeah.
EP and waving contest.
See, I don't see it as an issue. It's 5 more points, and if this is the last raid of the expansion, which I don't think is going to be the case, like I said before, and they said they have more plans for Warlords, and the WoW movie being pushed back to summer 2016. We can't have another Siege of Orgrimmar. We can't have another Ice Crown Citadel. We do. Oh boy. But just it's. I can't even think of a flip side or a other side of the coin for this question. The way he answered it was fine. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I have no issue with it. Now, overall, as an entire interview, personally, I wasn't that impressed with him, the way he was answering questions. Not the, we don't want you to play Demonology Warlock stuff. No, just his mannerisms and his tones. It really felt that he was either unprepared or didn't want to say stuff because the community managers get burned.
Plus, the community manager was sitting right there saying, "Yep, yeah,
Well, that goes back to where I said to you in a chat box in Skype. You're a lead game designer. Anywhere and anything I've seen where you have lead in your title, you speak for people under you. And him saying he has no right to speak for the team, I highly disagree with that. If you're a lead, you speak for your team.
And especially if you have time to prepare for it, you could actually talk to your team beforehand, write down some notes or something, or I don't. He could have done something to prepare a little bit, or maybe.
And this isn't the first time I've watched him in these mannerisms. The first couple times he did them, I was like, you know what? This whole live Q&A sitting there in front of a camera with Twitch chat going up is new to them because they really didn't do that until Lore came in to see him.
Yeah.
He's nervous. Sure. It's a new thing. Like for us, we first started doing the podcast. It wasn't as fluid as it is now. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do have aspects we need to work on, but I do believe every podcast we are getting better.
Plenty of hiccups.
Yeah. But where we are getting better, it seems like he's not getting over that hump, in my opinion.
And I feel like the community manager could have helped him there a little more by being a little more active. Instead, he just was sort of the guy in the room that was every now and then saying, yep, yep, and then clicking on stuff on the computer. It felt like Lore could have been a little more active, a little more helping him, guiding him a little bit in some way, or like maybe crack a joke or something to ease him up.
Okay, I'm with you on that spot, on that aspect. What I'm also looking at is the community managers have to know. I'm 100% certain they know stuff that isn't released yet, we don't know about, and not wanting to slip up on a statement. Whereas if the lead game designer releases the information, it's almost like a gift to the players, and no one's gonna get their nuts chopped off.
Yeah.
Whereas if he slips up, he's gonna be back in the basement doing tank spot videos.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying he should answer questions or anything. I just feel like maybe he could serve a purpose of just sort of easing the tension a little bit, lightening up the mood. Like, not really taking on the questions himself, but just in there to make the lead game designer guy feel more comfortable, and because it did seem like he was a little didn't know what was going on, sort of tense sort of feel.
That, and how many angry tweets did he get over the flying thing? I'm sure his eggshells were on eggshells that were on eggshells.
Yeah. Plus, there's the whole PR thing where he's probably trying not to risk his own job by saying something stupid that he shouldn't say.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the hardest parts. Like, for us, we don't really do the whole PR thing. Like, when we do these podcasts, we're not like, oh, we said some company secret, I guess we're gonna get fired today, or something like that. We let this slip, and he has that over his head, where the people that his bosses are probably like watching the stream, like, don't you say anything about this, don't you say anything about that. If you do, you're not the lead games.
Don't get me wrong, I understand that, because
yeah, the pressures of
it. I was in that position before where I knew stuff and I couldn't say stuff, and
you got to try and be politically correct on things.
Right. It is very difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to answer questions like that too, where you're just taking them from the community. So it could really be, the way they did it is, it felt like it could really be any question can be shot at them. Obviously, they didn't take all the questions that got posted on that forum post, or through Twitter, but and obviously they could cherry pick their questions if they wanted to, which it seems like in some aspect they did. But it's some questions I do feel are harder to answer without accidentally slipping up and saying something you either didn't mean, or revealing something that the company wasn't ready to reveal yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes to this point where, like, the Warlock question, for instance, kind of felt like I said, is a trap. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why he's a little more shaky on answering it, is just there's no right way to really answer that. And there's a lot of ways it could go really wrong if he says the wrong thing. And there's certain things that you don't reveal about the company's internal processes. And Uh,
And another thing, answering questions on Twitter or on the forums is so much easier than doing it live because you can type something up and go, no, that can be taken the wrong way. Type something up, let's change that word to that word.
Plus, you could go to other employees and say, hey, can you read this real quick? Does this sound too offensive, or does this sound like it's revealing too much? And get opinion from other people before you even post it. It's not like they do that all the time. Like that one time when they posted, I guess he posted something at 3 a.m. and people didn't take kindly to it. And he's like, sorry, it was 3 a.m. and I was kind of cranky. But they do have that opportunity with text. I do like, one thing I noticed about the live Q&A though was their chat moderation was actually pretty good. I noticed a lot of posts being deleted that I don't know what they would have been, but it'd come up every now and then, post deleted. And I didn't see so many people going off topic with their questions. And once they said they couldn't answer PvP questions, people stopped asking PvP questions. So it seemed like they were pretty good at moderating their chat a little bit.
I didn't notice the messages being deleted part because I run Better Twitch. Chrome plugin.
Oh.
And one of the options is to not remove deleted posts. And the only thing it does is put a line through it in the chat box.
Oh.
And you don't notice it as much.
Yeah. The only thing I noticed was someone was putting swastikas in the chat, and those weren't getting deleted, but you can't get everything right.
Right. So our next topic was demons. And just want to know this whole everything from this podcast this week was all Mike's doing, with me working on my office for 10 hours every day. I really haven't been able to contribute to the podcast, finding stuff to talk about. Just like my channel hasn't had videos besides our co-op stuff. But take away this lore thing, Mike, and I'll give my little segments whenever I feel I can interject something.
Well, it's just mostly, for the most part, before Warlords came out, the lore was pretty straightforward, and most of the lore buffs could answer the questions, and Blues didn't have to answer them so much. And it's when they did this alternate universe stuff that things started getting a little tricky, and I kind of knew they would, because anything that deals with time travel, alternate universe, and all that, inevitably in any story gets incredibly complex to ask questions about. And
we need the doctor.
And so they get to this 6.2 patch, and you find out the last boss is, guess who? Archimon. And what's the first thing players ask? Is this main universe or alternate universe Archimon? And then the Blues just sort of fall apart. And it's been this ongoing discussion for almost 3 to 4 weeks now, where there's been back and forth on Twitter, there's been back and forth on the forums, there's been back and forth everywhere. And basically we're at the point where Sargeras may or may not have clones in the alternate universe, so there may or may not be more versions of Sargeras, but there's only one version of all demons, may or may not be versions of Archimon. People are debating Archimon started out as a Draenei, and so doesn't that make him immune to the whole one demon for all dimensions thing? And then they even bring the old gods into it, trying to figure out if the old gods fall into the one old god, all dimensions thing. And it's become this complete and total tangled mess of lore where it's getting to the point where I feel it's actually doing more harm than good to the actual lore that's backing up the game. And like I said before, I kind of saw this coming when they announced the whole alternate universe thing, because it's really the side effect of any story, any book series, any time you add into a story, anything that deals with time travel and realities or stuff, it's going to make your lore very complicated, very complex. And from these posts on Twitter, I kind of get the feeling that they actually don't know themselves at this point. And I think they've kind of stepped into this very, very, very complex storytelling part where they're going to the lore team like, guys, figure this out.
So
and the lore team's like,
I'm,
what? Well, this connect, no, this, no. And it's like they're trying to untangle a ball of yarn that got tangled. Well, not a ball of yarn, but a tangle of yarn that's.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to have like a 12-book miniseries on Warcraft lore on top of what we already have.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where I feel like they're going to have to start a whole wiki on how demons work and in this alternate universe sort of thing. And we still don't have a clear answer on whether Archimonde is the Archimonde that got killed in Hyjal, or if he's the Archimonde from an alternate universe. And actually, some blues are contradicting each other for some of these answers. One blue says one thing, and then the other blue post says another thing. And so it really makes them feel disjointed. And I think the main problem with this is I feel it actually hurts the lore quite a bit, because a lot of players that are real close to the lore, a lot of the players that are lore junkies and like Red Shirt Guy, and know the lore front and back, a lot of these guys are getting confused, and it's really hurting their immersion into the game and stuff, because like our role players, there's role players in WoW, and they have a character that they've designed real close to the lore, and they're trying to figure out, how do I RP this character? How do I RP this scene and stuff? And I think that's those are the people that are more affected by this, are the people that do role playing within the game. And I feel like what they need to do at this point is they need to come out and either make a wiki or something, or maybe a water cooler where they finally, once and for all, lay it out for lore nerds and stuff, how it works, whether there's two of this and that and whatnot. Because even I find it really confusing, because a lot of these people asking questions have a point. Archimonde was a Draenei before he was part of the Burning Legion. So if we have two Velens, then by logic, there are two Archimondes and two Kil'jaedins before they became demons. And so what happened to those alternate universe versions of them? Did they join the Burning Legion, or did they make another choice? And I would assume they joined the Burning Legion because the Draenei are on Draenor. And which creates all these problems, all these contradictions and all that, and it really eats at the integrity of the World of Warcraft story, which for a lot of people is a large part of the game, what holds the game together. And in some cases it is. But obviously it's a lot of confusion right now, and Blizzard needs to, at some point, I feel, come out and lay the hammer down on it. Like, okay, this is what's going on. This is how it works.
Let me run this idea past you. Could they be so discombobulated because there's a story arc that we don't know about yet for this expansion?
Yeah, that's the other thing I was kind of wondering, is if maybe they're doing this because they don't want to reveal too much about something coming up or something. But right now, they're really bringing up more questions than they are answers. But
here's the thing. Again, I love World of Warcraft. I love a lot of the stuff that Blizzard does. I can call them on their faults. I give them praise where they deserve praise. One thing they're very good at is storytelling. And I find it really hard to believe they would paint themselves into a corner and not have a way out that doesn't seem gimmicky. So I would like this event. I would like to say and think that this whole disjointed BS that is happening right now with the lore is because there's something we're going to see after 6.2 that will tie everything together.
Yeah, possibly. I wouldn't mind seeing a quest that maybe explains it, like them kind of at least simplified explanation that later is supplemented by a wiki or something. Like
he's a robot.
Like maybe what's his name? Khadgar. Maybe Khadgar's like, oh well, yeah, this is how it happened. This is this, yeah, or something. But I think
it's all Khadgar's fault. He's evil.
But really, I think a lot of it is when you're making a story and you start messing with this alternate universe stuff and more so time travel. I think that's when you kind of that's when you need a whole team to really sort things out, because when you start messing with time travel, you get into this situation where you raise more questions than you can possibly have answers, and a lot of stuff doesn't make sense if you don't do it right. And that's one of the reasons why I can't watch time travel movies because every time I'm left with more questions than answers, and a lot of stuff doesn't make sense by the end of the movie. And that just ruins the immersion for me. So that's one of the things I was worried about when they first launched Warlords of Draenor. The first thing I was worried about is, oh God, they're doing time travel. Then they said it was alternate universe. I'm like, oh God, they're doing alternate universe. But I was a little more okay with it because alternate universe. But I think it would be a lot more simplified is if multiple Burning Legions existed instead of demons go to the Nether, or whatever it is, where they exist in all timelines. Because that makes things super confusing when you have that set up. And I could definitely see where the players are coming with those confusions, but secretly I do hope that all this confusion is actually some sort of ploy to make future story event exciting, or some sort of, there's this part in the story coming up, but we can't really tell it to you, and by answering your questions, we would tell it to you. So. But
here's a question I have. The Dark Dragonflight, or the Black Dragonflight, sorry. Can they shapeshift?
Yeah.
They take on forms of other beings besides dragons or their human form?
No, I believe it's only their human form or dragon.
Oh, that's okay.
And they can only be human, I think. They can't be the other races of WoW. From what I can tell, I'm not super huge lore nerd, so there may be someone who's like, "Oh, you're wrong." But from what I have read myself,
well, what I was thinking is maybe it's the Black Dragonflight doing something. You know, Wrathion being being a dickhole again.
I'm actually wondering what they're going to end up doing with Wrathion, because he's kind of like one of those good guys that does the wrong thing for the sake of the good. Sort of deals that they sort of set up, and at the end of Mists, he just kind of disappears, and now he's just sort of faded in the background. There's like one part of the questing that you do where you kind of run into him, but that's it. And I was kind of expecting something to come up with him by this point in the expansion, but maybe it's something later in the expansion. Maybe that's what they're hiding from us.
Right.
I'm actually kind of interested on the trailer that dropped for 6.2 launching next week. I'm actually kind of interested in how Grommash reacts, and how he talks up us and says they will beat you and all that. It kind of feels like maybe he's starting to side with us, and I kind of get this feeling that maybe he actually comes back to our universe with us or something, or actually becomes part of the Horde or whatever. But
oh God,
I kind of get a feeling that's where they're going with it. Obviously I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I got from it.
Right.
But
That's
I feel like they need to do something because they're starting to get to this point where they're contradicting each other and players are starting to lose confidence in their ability to maintain their own lore.
great.
And that's a bad place to be in for an MMORPG.
Especially one as strong and powerful as Blizzard.
Yeah.
But
I'm hoping it's not a case of they took a dive into this alternate universe thing that they weren't ready for and now they're regretting it. Because if that's the case, then this expansion is going to end with a lot of people kind of uneasy about Blizzard's lore capabilities.
Right?
Keeping their lore straight.
But that's all the topics we had. Thanks again, Mike, for putting them all together. What do you have coming up for your channel?
Probably starting next week, I'm going to start showing off my Steam games that I got.
Cool, cool.
Maybe starting next week, maybe the week after. I don't know. Whenever I get around to it. I got a few things coming up, or a few things going on now that my moving to Indiana is getting closer. Like Friday, I have to go to court for a whole deal with FedEx, but so that'll probably
that's tomorrow,
with my weekend
buddy.
videos. Huh?
That's tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Making sure you understood that.
Tomorrow at 9 a.m. I have to wake up, which is and I have to deal with that shit. So my weekend, that might affect my weekend videos, but I'm going to try and get my weekend videos all out there if I can.
Cool.
But other than that, we're slowly building up towards the move, so it may affect my video output there and all that. And I'm going to try and start showing off some of the games I got out of the Steam sale with my birthday money. So I got quite a few games. I'm up to 160 games on Steam now.
Dear God, man.
So
I only have 75.
well, get on that.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the co-ops that I'll be doing with you with the games we both bought together.
Mm-hmm. Or the ones we gifted each other.
Well, that's what I mean. I bought 2 of a game and gifted 1 to you.
But for me, I plan tomorrow to spend most of the day getting content ready for next week. So I'm not only doing 1 video a day, not promising anything. Because tomorrow, no working on The Office. And raid night on Saturday. Hopefully our last time in Black Rock.
Yep, 6.2 next week.
Yep. We get to spend the following Saturday on a White Fest in Hellfire. And then we are taking a weekend off because it's the 4th of July. So...
And we'll be streaming it on our channels if you want to watch the raid.
Mm-hmm.
Watch us.
You stream it. You stream it on your Twitch channel. I stream it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I stream it on Twitch because whenever I stream on YouTube, it gives me problems. Still, YouTube is its own animal.
It is.
Slightly longer setup time too to get it all set up to go.
Oh yeah, it is.
Twitch is just hit stream on OBS and go.
Hopefully with the YouTube gaming, stuff like that gets fixed. But
yeah, hopefully.
I do plan to do more live streams whenever The Office is done. People seem to really enjoy that stuff, so.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some more live streams out there.
Maybe we can do some live streams together.
Possibly.
Yep.
It's one of the areas I've been neglecting with my channel for the most part. Just trying to find the time.
Right? But that's our show for this week. Anything else you want to add, Mike?
Look both ways when you cross the street.
There you go.
Tip of the day.
Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.